Savin Rock Amusement Park was a seaside amusement park located in West Haven, Connecticut. First established in 1870 after trolley lines were extended into the area, the first marquee ride in the park was a carousel that was initially powered by people, but was eventually adapted to be powered by horses instead. The park also featured a dance hall, a museum, a small zoo, and patrons could watch and bet on horse racing, boxing matches, auto racing, and cockfights as well. In 1903, the park was officially renamed the White City, and in 1904, it opened its first official ride under this new name, the Old Mill, which was a boat ride on a guided track through dark tunnels. This style of ride today is commonly referred to as a tunnel of love, and these types of rides were a staple of amusement parks in the early 1900s. A shoot-the-chutes ride, which was essentially an early version of modern flume rides, was installed shortly after the Old Mill and was named the Mill Chutes. By 1910, the park had added a movie theater, several dining establishments, and 2 roller coasters, the Roller Bowler Coaster and the Racer. These new attractions proved to be an instant hit, bringing in record numbers of visitors to the park. In early 1913, the movie theater was destroyed in a fire, and while nobody was hurt in the fire, 1913 would go on to host the first fatality in the park in its 43 years of operation. On July 16, 1913, 2 women and a man purchased tickets to ride the Racer roller coaster together. The 2 women sat in one car, and the man sat alone in his aisle of the second, adjacent car. The Racer was a racing-style roller coaster, a type of roller coaster where 2 parallel cars are raced around parallel tracks, giving the riders the experience of racing against the other car. The ride proceeded as normal, and near the end of the ride, when the 2 cars were close together on the tracks, the man decided to jump from his car to the other car on the adjacent track. Unfortunately, the man did not make the jump as intended, and his legs were pulled into the tracks beneath the car as it descended into another dip in the tracks, badly mutilating them. The engineer operating the ride quickly realized what had happened and brought the ride to a halt, and the man was removed from the tracks and rushed to the hospital, where he died shortly afterwards. The man did not have any sort of identification on him when he died, and so identifying him became the first priority of the investigation into the incident. The 2 women that had been seen accompanying him had seemingly vanished after the man was brought to the hospital, and several witnesses claimed that one of the women claimed to be his wife and searched through his clothes before he was taken to the hospital. Another witness to the incident claimed that the man's name was Thrall and that he claimed to be from Hartford, Connecticut. The police were quickly led to a local woman named Martha Lewis, as her pocketbook had been located inside the man's clothing, and she was found to be in possession of the man's pocketbook. He was identified as Hartford resident Louis Trell, and Martha Lewis was arrested and held with a bond of $200 or $3,800 in today's money. She explained that she did not previously know Trell and had asked him to hold her pocketbook while they rode the ride. She admitted to claiming to be his wife so that she could search his clothes, but she also claimed that she only intended to grab her pocketbook back before he was taken to the hospital, and she had mistakenly taken his instead. This story proved to be believable enough, and the charges against Martha Lewis were seemingly dropped. The final conclusion of the investigation found that, quote, there was no carelessness involved except on the part of the man who was killed. The second woman that had reportedly been seen with Trell and Lewis was never identified. Despite this accident, however, the park continued to thrive, and by 1918, the park was hosting over 1.2 million visitors each season. In 1919, the park rebranded to its de facto name of Savin Rock Amusement Park, and in 1922, the park added a pier that would become a popular feature of the park, and in 1925, Savin Rock's most famous roller coaster, the Thunderbolt, was constructed on the pier. The Thunderbolt was a well-loved coaster and was a huge draw of visitors to the park, along with the various nightmare fuel fun houses that also had begun to pop up around the park. However, in September of 1938, the Thunderbolt was destroyed in a hurricane, and a replacement for it called the Giant Flyer was quickly constructed in its place. and during its inaugural season, the Giant Flyer would claim the second life of a guest in the park. Exactly 26 years after the first fatality in the park, on July 16, 1939, two 26-year-old friends, Romeo Rotino and Stephen Hayes, boarded the rear row of the roller coaster. At some point near the end of the ride, Rotino turned to talk to his friend about the ride they had just experienced and was shocked to find that Hayes was no longer in the seat next to him. The ride was shut down, and Hayes' body was recovered from slightly past the fourth dip of the ride, suggesting that he had been ejected as the cart crested the hump. The coroner's report found that Hayes had died from striking his neck on a crossbeam as he fell, breaking his neck, killing him. Safety restraints in those days were non-existent, and Savin Rock Amusement Park was not found to be liable for the death. The Giant Flyer remained in operation until 1956, but it never achieved the popularity of its predecessor. Savin Rock Amusement Park remained open until 1966, when it was shut down after business had slowed down significantly. And despite being in operation for nearly a century, Louis Trell and Stephen Hayes would be the only guests that lost their lives while visiting the Savin Rock Amusement Park. Today, the site of Savin Rock Amusement Park has been converted into the much less amusing Savin Rock City Park. Thank you all for watching.